Renee, for those of you who don't know me. I am 47 years old. I have been a carnivore for over 8 months, and I am here to tell my story. Talk about a couple of things before I get going. First off, I'm not going to edit this video. What you see is what you get. Life is sometimes messy, and there may be some messy parts of this video, but I'm okay with that. Secondly, I'm really not comfortable doing this yet. I have been hounded to get my story out there and to do a YouTube channel. I have done a whole bunch of interviews, but I have not actually just sat here and talked to the camera, except for yesterday, which brings me to my next thing. I did this whole entire thing yesterday, and then my file got corrupted before I got it on YouTube. So this is take number 2. And I hope that I get all of the information in today's video that I got in yesterday's video. So, and I have a feeling that this one's going to work better because thanks to my child, I have purchased the right software to be able to do this, and hopefully it will work. So, a little bit background. I have been a nurse for almost 22 years. I was in the military and spent 4 years active duty in the Air Force as an air traffic controller. And then I got out of active duty, went into the reserves, and started nursing school in Phoenix, Arizona. And within a year of starting nursing school, 9/11 happened. So I went and spent some more time back on the base, more than I had previously, and was able to finish nursing school. Started my nursing career in Phoenix at St. Joe's Hospital in their pediatric ICU, and then moved on to Phoenix Children's Hospital in their ER. My husband at the time was Hawaiian, and when we started having our children, which was we ended up with 2 boys, Gabe and Elijah, which I absolutely adore. Hi kiddos, you better be watching. We decided to move to Hawaii because he's Hawaiian, and we wanted our kids to be raised in our culture. So we went and moved to Hawaii. I became an oncology nurse and did oncology for 3 years. My heart couldn't take it. I thought pediatric ICU was hard. Oncology was just as bad. From oncology, moved into management, and then I became a nursing supervisor, which is the house supervisor of a hospital. And it was absolutely an amazing job. I did that for over a decade until I got really sick, which we'll get to. And then I moved into middle management and became the director of patient care. So that's kind of where my career was. Right now, I am actually medically retired. I retired October 1st, had to leave my hospital, and we moved to the mainland. I'll get to all of that in the story. And currently I am retired and a full-time student. So that's kind of my adult life. On my health, my first health issues started when I started getting migraines at puberty. And then I got depressed and started dealing with depression. I think it was in 8th grade that I became suicidal for the first time. Fought depression off and on, had some issues with substance abuse through high school and then into college. My first year in college on scholarships, flunked out, was asked not to come back, so joined the military. When I was in nursing school, I had my next suicidal period of time, and I have fought anxiety and depression ever since. When, I got divorced in 2010. About the same time, I started not being able to keep food down. Having severe stomach pain, couldn't keep food down, couldn't figure out what was going on. I kept going to my primary care doctor, who kept saying I was depressed because I was going through a divorce. I got down to a very unhealthy weight, and I think it was in 2012. So I started the symptoms in 2010. Finally, in 2012, she kept telling me that I was depressed and that it was just depression. My divorce was like 2 years, had been almost 2 years. I was in a new relationship with my current husband. My kids were doing great. We had an amazing condo on the beach in Hawaii. I loved my job. There was no reason for me to be depressed. We were planning a wedding. So one night when I was at work, I ended up sitting down with the ER doctor, and my vital signs were in the toilet, and he was like, Renee, you're really sick. You need to be in the hospital. He called my primary care, who happened to not be the one on call, but someone else was, and they wrote orders for me, and I ended up leaving my shift in the morning and going straight into the hospital. I spent a few days in the hospital because I was so dehydrated that it took a few days worth of fluids to get me back to where I needed to be. This amazing man, doctor, sat down with me and put his hand on my knee and said, Renee, you're really sick. Something's wrong. And I just cried because no one had listened to me for 2 years. So he ordered EGD. He ordered a gastric emptying test. And when I got out of the hospital and flew over to Oahu for those tests, I got a phone call like a week after my gastric emptying test from the gastroenterologist in Oahu, which is on a different island. I was on the big island. And he said, I just want to let you know that your gastric emptying test shows you have gastroparesis. So just so you know, really quick, gastroparesis means the stomach, which usually like contracts and moves so your food can continue to work down it. Gastroparesis means it doesn't move. So when you eat your food, it just stays. And there's nothing to push it down and nothing to get it to start digesting. So that would explain the stomach pain. That would explain the bloating. That would explain the throwing up. And my doctor will agree. I literally saved my life those 2 years that no one would listen to me by drinking white chocolate mochas with peppermint from Starbucks. It was the only way I could get calories in. It was the only thing I wouldn't throw up. And I mean, I'm talking about the sugar in that. So not very healthy. So the gastroenterologist calls, says that I have gastroparesis. And he says, we really don't know a whole lot about idiopathic gastroparesis. So I don't even have a diet suggestion for you other than eat things that are easy for the food for the stomach to break down. So go for white breads, white sugar, white flour, anything, ultra processed basically, and white. So I was not allowed to go back to work it took me 3 months. My primary care doctor told me that I had to gain 15 pounds. And I was close to a feeding tube at this point. I had a gastric stimulator conversation, and this wonderful man who invented them said he would give me one if I could find a surgeon to put it in. It just was awful. So we decided, so I went back to work after gaining 15 pounds by eating potato chips and pepperoni. Great, right? And a bunch of soda and a bunch of Starbucks. So go back to work and still not doing great. We ended up getting a drug brought in from Canada under compassionate import with I don't even know who it was, honestly. My doctor did it all. And I had the drug sitting on my counter. It was a drug that was black labeled in America, which means that we had already used it and said nope. And so it was very skeptical that I was really scared to try it. So I did a Hail Mary and I went to the hypnotherapist that my husband went to. And this hypnotherapist had great results with my husband. I don't know what happened. I don't know how to explain hypnotherapy. But all I know is that I felt better. I felt blood come back into my body like I had never felt before. And I was able to eat again. Not great. I still had to put heat on my stomach. I still, to this year, have fought my gastroparesis. So it didn't make it go away. It just made it where I could live with it. So I continued with the hypnotherapy. Got to the point where I actually gained so much weight that my wedding dress almost didn't fit because I had it fit before I had gained all the weight. And so that was in 2013 that I got married. So until 2019, I first off, going back to my 20s, I've been a yo-yo dieter my entire life. I did the Atkins diet back in my 20s and had great results with it, and that was the best that I felt was when I was on the Atkins. But I've been a yo-yo dieter, trying every diet in the world, always going back to the standard American diet. So, and I am very aware that I say ums when I am telling a story because I'm trying to regurgitate it in my brain, so I apologize to those people that it drives crazy. I'm trying really hard not to, and my heat is killing me. Turn my heat off. So I became a weightlifter. I had always worked out off and on my entire adult life, but I became a weightlifter, started working out 6 days a week, and getting up at 3:45, 4 o'clock in the morning to work out. Still trying a whole bunch of different diets. My poor husband had to deal with all of that. We did everything from Mediterranean to pescatarian, Whole30, vegetarian, and in late 2018 we landed at vegan. Watched a documentary, convinced me that we needed to be vegan. So we went vegan. My husband has always told me from the day we got together that he is a predator. His eyes are in the front of his head. He has incisors, and he's meant to eat meat. And he decided that he would have to do what I was doing because it's marriage, right? I don't even know what to say. So I started smoking when I was 14 and was a pretty steady smoker until I got pregnant with my first child. I quit, and then I started when I got divorced. So my oldest was 5. So I quit for 5 years, and then I smoked again. And I have been trying to quit smoking for the last, 30 years. Not seriously, like probably 15 years. And I've been a drinker since I was in my teens. And I wasn't a heavy drinker, but I averaged 1 to 2 drinks a night, mostly beer. Oh, I love my beer. So we're now in the fall of 2019. I am not drinking. I am not smoking. I am working out 6 days a week and love my job. I mean, we were active. We were hiking all the time. We were on our paddle boards. We were at the beach. We made it a point that we got in the water like a couple times a week. I mean, we were living our best life, like honestly, living our best life. And on November 13th, 2019, I got up in the morning and I worked out. I went to work for 8 hours. And at this point, I was doing a hybrid job where I was working in some admin and I was working still as a nursing supervisor. So I only had an 8-hour shift that day. I come home. We were just turning into pescatarians again. So we were adding fish back into our diet from the vegan because we needed something in there. And so I gotta find a happy place with this heat here. I'm cold, but I'm not cold. So got home from work and we were gonna make dinner and I volunteered to peel the shrimp. So I went to peel my first shrimp and I couldn't break the head off. Like my hands wouldn't work. I couldn't get the peel to come off. I told my husband, I'm like, I can't do this. My hands aren't working. And that was the start. By the next morning, my whole left side of my body was so weak I could barely walk. I looked like I had foot drop because I didn't have any strength to get my foot to where it needed to go. The pain in all my extremities was excruciating. So that was on a Wednesday, and I had a neurology appointment that Friday for my migraines anyway with a new neurologist. So I just waited for that appointment. When I went in, unfortunately, he was expecting to see me for migraines, and he did not see me for migraines that day. He said there was something really wrong. We needed to do a full workup. I have to say that I have an HMO. The good thing about my HMO is that had the leading healthcare in Hawaii. We got everything done as fast as we needed to. There was no referrals. Everything that he needed, he got ordered. The bad thing is everything has to be done on a different island because there's no contract with. I worked at the hospital on our island, and there is no contract with our HMO at our hospital. So everything had to be done in Oahu. All my MRIs, all my CAT scans, everything had to be done there. So at this point, I'm really concerned about multiple sclerosis because I have 2 first cousins. Hi, if you're watching, that have multiple sclerosis. And so that's where instantly I went. And I kept getting worse. The pain was unbearable in all of my extremities. I was still going to work because, we only have so much sick leave and I had to work. So I continued to go to work. And mid-December, I went over to Oahu to have a spinal tap done so they could test my lumbar fluid. And unfortunately, they didn't keep me, and we didn't have the foresight that we should have stayed the night in Oahu. And I went straight from my lumbar puncture back to the airport, got in a plane, and came home. Never laid on my back and never put pressure on that puncture site that was in my spine. And I ended up getting a spinal headache from a spinal leak. And it was the worst experience of my life. And at this point, my husband is really sick. This is December 2019. We think it was COVID. I don't care what they say about it. COVID wasn't here yet. He was so sick. He broke ribs. He got pneumonia. He was sick. So he's sick and on the couch. I have a spinal headache, and not only that, I'm still like half paralyzed and can barely walk and have no strength. And how are my kids going to cook vegan for us or even pescatarian? So we luckily had some friends that did some grocery shopping for us because at this point, both of my kids are under the age of 16. And we ended up getting as easy a food as we could that they could put in the oven and cook. And we ended up going back to being a standard American diet. There was no choice at that point. Who was going to cook vegan for us? And it wasn't going to be me. So I ended up having this amazing anesthesiologist, Beth, love her, and she came in on her day off to the ER, met me there, and she did a blood patch. I don't know if any of you know what a blood patch is, but it is an awful experience. She basically burrows a hole into my spine above where the leak is, and then somebody puts an IV in and takes 30 cc's of your blood out, and then she squirts it in so it drips down and causes a clot over that hole, basically over the leak. I don't recommend that to anybody, but if you have a spinal headache from a leak, absolutely, yes, she was my lifesaver. So it wasn't until, and then I saw a rheumatologist, had a whole rheumatology workup. She decided that she couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, so she diagnosed me with fibromyalgia. So my chart still says I have fibromyalgia, even though I was telling her I don't have the tiredness or any of the main symptoms of fibromyalgia. She goes, yeah, but you have your rheumatoid factors positive, and we don't know what's wrong with you. At this point, my neurologist decides that he doesn't know what's wrong with me either, and he wants to get a second opinion and sends me to another neurologist. So I go to the second neurologist, and he is like, something's really wrong with you. Duh. And he decides he's like, I'm just going to throw a Hail Mary out here, and we're going to draw some more labs. There's a few things that maybe weren't checked. Let's see. Well, lo and behold, those labs came back positive. It showed that I had anti-glioside antibodies, which basically meant that I had a form of Guillain-Barré. And the chronic form is called chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy. Basically, my immune system decided that it didn't like me anymore and was going to attack the myelin sheaths of my nerves in my arms and my legs. So kind of like what MS does in the brain, but this was in my arms and legs. There's no cure for it. Sometimes it goes in remission. They don't know what can cause it to go in remission. And I mean, the good thing was he said there's treatment. And I ended up not very long after the diagnosis getting my first round of high dose IVIG for 5 days. IVIG is immunoglobulin, and it is taken out of donated blood or donated plasma. I'm not even quite sure. Every bottle has thousands of people's immunoglobulin in it, and basically you're putting that into your body. So of course they have to give you Tylenol and Benadryl before they can do it, so you don't react to it. A week-long treatment is about $100,000. Thank gosh I had insurance. And by Wednesday of that week, I could almost walk again by myself without assistance. It was amazing. It made me feel better. By the end of my first treatment, I was better. I wasn't amazing, and the pain was still there, and I was still, by this time, I'm already maxed out on gabapentin, which I was taking 3,600 milligrams a day. I was already taking nortriptyline with the gabapentin, so already taking all these medications. It worked for about a month, and then it didn't work again. And he wanted me to do another 5-day cycle. But at this point, America now has COVID, and our COVID response at the hospital was up and going. I was on the incident command team. By now, I'm the director of patient care at the hospital, so I had to be there. There was no way I could take 5 days off again. No way. So he decided we could do 1 day a week for 5 weeks. So that's what we did. And that worked fairly well. I ended up spending the rest of the year working 60 to 80 hours a week because of COVID, and I did okay. I was still on medication. I'm still using heat all the time. I still have awful pain, but I can manage. I'm actually living. So eating the American Standard Diet, we stayed on that for years after I got sick. So I ended up, I don't even know how long it was later. I've had several doses of IVIG through a couple of years. And the last round of 5 days of IVIG, on Wednesday night of my treatment, I developed the worst headache and neck pain that I had ever had in my entire life, except for that spinal headache. So this is like number 2 on my list of the worst things ever. And went to the ER. Anybody who works in a hospital, we don't go to the ER. Like, I don't want to be there. I don't want them to see me because I work with them on a day-to-day basis. And B, I'm a nurse. Unless you're dying, you don't go to the hospital. So I went, and they gave me high-dose steroids, amongst other things. Decided that I got atypical meningitis from the IVI treatment, which is one of the side effects that can happen. Went in the next day for my Thursday treatment, and my neurologist said, let's go ahead and do it. Let's just give high-dose steroids for the next couple of days. So I finished out my treatments, didn't sleep for several days because of the steroids. And I went to see my neurologist, and he said, no more. You have failed high-dose IVIG. You can't tolerate it anymore, so let's go to monthly and see what happens if we do a monthly dose. So I did a monthly dose for a long time. I don't even know how long it was. And at this point, it's not really working. My pain is out of control. I can't keep it. It's awful. It's taking everything I can to get out of bed and go to work. And when I get home from work, all I do is sit on the couch. I have nothing left in me. Everything hurts. Everything, it's awful. And finally, my neurologist said, let's try rituximab. IVIG is not working anymore, so let's up it. Rituximab is a monoclonal antibody, which is basically an immunosuppressant drug that gets infused. When I was an oncology nurse, we used it for B-cell lymphoma because it has a really good job of going in and killing the B cells. It also leaves you immunocompromised because every immunosuppressant drug does. So I did the rituximab, and during my first 15 minutes of getting it, I had an allergic reaction, which is normal for people to have. And then they treat it with more Benadryl, which I thought I was going to die, and steroids. And then I finished my rituximab treatment. Unfortunately, it makes you feel like you've had chemo. I mean, it is basically. And it took me down for about 5 days every time I had it. And I did it every 5 months. So fast forward, I had it in the fall of 23, October of 23. My son left for boot camp in January of 24. And 6-7 weeks later, we went to Texas for his graduation from boot camp. And I had already, in July of 23, we had gone to Colorado on vacation to go see Disturbed in concert, which was amazing. And then the week after that, I had gone to Alabama for FEMA training for hospital response to disasters. And when I got home from that, I had gotten COVID, and I almost died. Literally almost died from that COVID. So I get home from Texas with COVID again. This time it was, thank gosh, it was way more mild than the last COVID I'd had. But I just, I was at the depth of, I just couldn't do this anymore. I kept telling my husband, I'm like, this is not, our youngest son was a senior in high school, and I was like, I don't know that I want to continue to live like this. I don't know, once Elijah graduates, I'm not sure I'm going to do this anymore. Like, honestly, I would cry and say, I wish I'd gotten cancer because at least I'd be dead by now. Like, I wouldn't have to deal with this because the pain was that bad. And as a nurse, I don't think I ever completely understood chronic pain until I had it. And I didn't understand neuropathy. People think, oh, well, neuropathy is numbness. No, it is not numbness. It hurts, it tingles, it burns, it aches. It is awful. And I did not mean to do that thumbs up. So laying at home with COVID, my husband is already feeling better because he got it too. And he's going back to work and I am not. And he says, he's been telling me this for a long time. I don't listen. He can attest to that. He says, just look into the carnivore diet while you're laying here doing nothing. And I finally decided, you know what, honey, I'll watch something. I'll look on YouTube. I'll see what's out there. Mostly just to get him off my back. And he knows that. He knows I love you, but I didn't want to do it. So I get on YouTube and I failed to mention that by this time, which way do I want to go? I was walking with, I don't even know how this thing is doing this, with that cane right there. I was walking with it. I was so weak on my left side that I kept falling. And let me tell you what a humbling thing it is to be a nurse and to be the director of patient care and to walk into your hospital where you work with a cane. It was a hard pill to swallow. The route I was going, I probably was going to lose my ability to walk by the time I was 50. So I'm desperate. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't have come to carnivore if I wasn't in desperation, but I probably wouldn't have. As a nurse, eating a carnivore diet it's not what I was taught, and it's not what makes sense. It does now. We'll get to that. So I get on YouTube and I put in carnivore, and the first video that pops up is Carrie Mann from Healing Humanity. He is becoming a dear friend of mine, and I owe so much to him. The video I watched was his 9-month check-in, and he was absolutely phenomenal. He was running all over the place, and he was happy, and he was showing how he had been so sick, and now he wasn't, and that he was just eating meat. So I was very lucky because his enthusiasm kept me engaged. And so I decided, well, let's go to another video. And I ended up finding Mikhaila Peterson and her TED Talk that she did about her autoimmune disease and healing her rheumatoid arthritis. And now I'm thinking, there's got to be something to this, because if she can do this and it's an autoimmune disease, then anybody should be able to. So I continued going down the rabbit hole. I found Dr. Berry. I found Dr. Chafee. I found Dr. Baker, Dr. Peterson, Dr. Kiltz, Dr. Amora. Like, because of course I'm the nurse, so I wasn't going to listen to people who weren't doctors. Like, I wanted to hear it from the medical professionals. So I don't think that it was a couple hours into this that I texted my husband when he was at work, and I said, you know, if you don't want to be a carnivore, tell me now, because I've gone down this rabbit hole and I don't know that I'm ever going to be able to crawl back out. And he was like, no, let's do it. So this was mid-March, maybe a little bit at the beginning towards March. We had food left in our fridge, and I said, well, let's eat what we have left. And at that time, I baked a really amazing sourdough. Well, I still do, but I don't eat it. By March 20th, I was like, you know what, screw it. Let's just do it. I don't care what food we have. Let's donate it. And we ended up donating a lot of food. But we went ahead and started on March 20th. We went Lion Diet. I don't like to call it diet because it was not, there is nothing about carnivore that's a diet. This is my life and this is the way I live. And so we did Lion. I did beef, water, salt for the first 60 days. I gave up my coffee addiction that I'd had my entire life. Not anymore though. And did Lion Diet. It was only a couple weeks into it that my pain was much better. And mind you, my pain at this point was so out of control. I had started using marijuana. I didn't touch it. There were times I'd look at my husband and be like, you know, I don't think my pain's gone, but I'm so high, I just don't care. But the problem is that, I spent a lot of years in my early days being high and missing out on life, and I wasn't wanting to be there again. I had a kid that was a senior in high school. I didn't want to be high for the last part of his life with me at home. It just wasn't what I wanted. And so within a couple weeks, my pain was controlled. It was like a 3 and below. One night I was laying in bed and it dawned on me my feet weren't burning anymore. And I looked at my husband like tears. I get emotional thinking about it. My feet weren't burning anymore. And I told him, I said, if I have to eat a ribeye every single day for the rest of my life and that's the only thing that I get to eat, but my pain is controlled, I'm there. Like, I don't care. I'm there. I'm only like 3 weeks into this, and I know this is the rest of my life. I know that I will never, ever, ever go back to eating the way that I was. So things just continue to get better. But in February of that year, before I had gone to my son's graduation, I applied for medical retirement. I told my boss, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm barely getting up 5 days a week to come to work. Some days I'm working from home because I just can't get dressed. At this point, my hair was shaved. My hair was completely shaved off. I've done this haircut a lot over the years, but it was like high and tight because I had no strength to wash my hair. I had no strength to do anything with my hair. There were days that holding a toothbrush was too hard. So I just couldn't do it. You know, my neurologist used to be able to tell how bad my pain was by what my haircut looked like. The shorter it is, the worse the pain was. So I'd applied for medical retirement. We decided when I applied for medical retirement that we weren't going to stay in Hawaii. It was time to move to the mainland. Hawaii has the best health care they can have, but there's no place to do clinical trials. There's no place to do anything else. And at the point that I was at, rituximab was kind of it. If I failed rituximab, there was nothing else on the plate at that moment. So there is now, but I don't need it because I've taken care of it. So we started looking. We had over the years since I'd gotten sick, looked at places that we wanted to move, and we had narrowed it down to back to Arizona, which is where I had lived for 10 years before I moved to Hawaii. So we decided, even though I started to feel a little bit better on carnivore, I was still using a cane. The weakness wasn't getting better, but the pain was getting better. We decided we were going to go ahead and continue to proceed with the move. So we put our house on the market the week after my son graduated high school. And we came out to Arizona and looked at houses in June. We found the house that we're currently living in. In August of this year, I dropped my son off at college, and at the end, like a week after I dropped him off at college, we closed on both houses. We closed on our house in Hawaii and we closed on our house in Arizona. So in a matter of 2 months, we became empty nesters, and we sold our house. We moved to Arizona, and we have a new house now. Now, mind you, my husband, when I married him, swore he was never leaving Hawaii. He said that was his home and he was never leaving. And here he is living in Arizona because of my health. So I can do a whole bunch of what ifs. What if I'd found carnivore sooner? Like, would I have retired? Would we have stayed? Would life be different? But you know what? We're where we need to be, and I'll get to that. So anyway, that cane that's over there. I don't even know how to point at it with the way that this is doing. Anyway, I stopped using it the week after we moved here. We've been here since the end of September. I didn't need it anymore. I had my footing back under me. The weakness was getting better. I started growing my hair back out to my favorite haircut. Because I can do it again. I can get up here and I can touch the top of my head, and I can keep my hand up there long enough to blow dry it. Am I 100% better? No. Do I have days where the pain is really bad? Yep. But I'm off nortriptyline, I'm off duloxetine, and I am only on gabapentin. And my 3,600 milligrams a day I have been reducing it, and I am down 900 milligrams. So I'm at 2,700. Look at me not be able to do math. 2,700 milligrams a day. So I'm already down that much, and I'm going to continue weaning. But the pain is awful right now. I can't complain. I can't say that it's not. One thing I forgot to mention, which I'm sure you've all noticed, is I have a hemifacial spasm on the right side of my face. I get Botox for it. I get Botox for migraines still. The hemifacial spasm, I'm hoping eventually, all of the good, wonderful carnivore doctors that I've watched a ton of videos, they all say that it takes years for nerves to heal. So I have faith. I have faith that this will all get better. I just need to give it time. Because I'm weaning my gabapentin, the pain is there, but it's not awful. I just started an intensive chiropractic treatment plan to try to fix some discs that are not where they're supposed to be, and try to fix some pain that way as well. So it's not perfect, but it's okay. The one thing that I will say that I found one of the most important parts is finding a community. My husband and I, other than our primary care doctor, who we found in Arizona, who is a carnivore, which is amazing because we don't have to explain ourselves to him, and he totally understands, and we're very, very lucky to have him. Other than him, we don't know any real life carnivores yet. We've not met any in person. I have a whole community of them online. I'm very excited because I think that I get to meet everybody at a meetup in a month, and so I'm very excited about that. But the communities are very important. The first community I joined was the Steak and Butter Gang with Bella and her group. I did priming for 2 months. I ate and ate and ate and ate to tell my body that it was okay to start healing. And that was the best thing I could have ever done, was teach my body how to eat again, and that it's not going to yo-yo diet. And I ended up following an OMAD. I ate 1 meal a day, and I'm okay with that. I eat a ton of fat. If I get hungry throughout the day, I eat pemmican which is a beef flour and tallow mixture. I'm making a video on how we make it, but it'll probably be a few weeks for that, or who knows, because I still have half a cow in my freezer that is in boxes that needs to come out so I can finish making that video. And we went and picked up our half a cow, and then we've just had no time to do anything with it. And it's crazy because neither of us are working right now. I'm a full-time student, which takes some of my time, but we've been doing so many things around the house that we just haven't had time to even do that. So community was important. And then I was so lucky to be able to be a beta tester on Healing Humanity Life, which is Carrie Mann's platform that goes along with the documentary he's making. If you haven't checked out Healing Humanity, you need to check it out. It's absolutely phenomenal. So I belong to his community. I'm pretty active in his community. And I have Beyond the Bite with Amy that I'm part of. I still drop in on the Steak and Butter Gang. But having community and having people to support you and having that is so important. That was a big part of, and you know, the wonderful thing is like you get access to these doctors. And then I actually belonged to Dr. Barry's group for a hot minute. I'm so sorry I left your group, Dr. Barry. I want to come back, but I just don't have time right now. I will get there again. But having access to these doctors and asking questions, I found out that my nerves are going to take years to heal and that I need to just be patient. What I also found, whom I met, is a lady in another country who has the same disease as me. We don't speak the same language, but Instagram translated for us. And she has been a carnivore for over 3 years and she completely healed. So she gives me hope. So you find people out there that are going through the same things you're going through or similar things, and you find hope there. Community is really important. Surround yourself. Watch YouTube videos. I spent so much time watching YouTube videos. I don't even know if there's a way to find out how many hours you've watched. I don't even know that I want to know. But I have a little ways to go. I really do. I'm not there yet, but I know that I will get there. People ask if I get tired of eating meat. And my answer is no. Every day that ribeye, I eat a lot of ribeyes. Every day that ribeye tastes just as good as it did the day before. Meat, food is not for entertainment. We don't sit around the table and eat like we used to for entertainment. Food is my medicine. Food is replacing all the medications that I was taking. And it's really interesting finding out what works for me and what doesn't. So I did Lion Diet for 60 days. The only thing I added back in after that 60 days was bacon. And let me tell you what, my first bite of bacon after being vegan, I was like, what was I thinking? Why would I not eat bacon? So, added bacon back in, I added coffee back in. I found a brand of coffee called Purity, which they do a really good job of trying to give you the best quality that you can have with less mold. I learned that coffee has mold. I also know that Dr. Chafee would say absolutely no coffee, and I know that Dr. Barry says, yeah, go ahead if it's what you want. So my feeling is I don't smoke anymore, I don't drink anymore, I don't eat sugar anymore, which I replaced smoking and drinking and other things with sugar. So, you know, it's all, they're all addictions. So yeah, I have a couple cups of coffee a day. I'm going to go with it. I put heavy whipping cream in it and that's it. So, eggs, I ate a ton of eggs after, the 60 days. And then I realized that they weren't making me feel good. My pain was worse on days that I ate eggs. So I stopped the eggs. And after we moved here, we have met this wonderful man who has chickens and he gives us fresh eggs, and I can actually do his fresh eggs. Not the store-bought eggs, but I can do the fresh eggs. I don't do a whole lot. I eat eggs like once a week. So mostly I eat beef, water, and salt, and my coffee. I want to talk about mental health because that was like my icing on the cake. Or the salt on my ribeye, because we don't eat cake anymore. On and off depression my entire life. Crippling anxiety at times. I was taking Xanax for it. The worst part of my anxiety was flying. I was so scared to death of flying. And I wasn't. In the early part of life, I was in the Air Force. I flew in an F-16. We used to fly all over. I had no problem flying. I was air traffic controller. I mean, for heaven's sakes. And then my son, when he was about 3, developed epilepsy. And we ended up going back and forth between our island and Oahu, where the children's hospital was. And I think that I just developed a phobia of flying. I think that it was PTSD from that experience, and it just continued to get worse, and it continued to get worse. And it was to the point where I was taking 2 milligrams of Xanax to get on a plane. We did not travel very often because of that. It was difficult. And if I had to just travel to Oahu for a doctor's appointment or something, I couldn't take the medication because I can't, like, how am I going to drive when I get to the next island? So that 45-minute flight was the worst 45-minute flight of my life every time I took it. And during like the diagnosis period of my disease, I was on planes all the time going back and forth. I couldn't fly alone, always had to have somebody with me because I had to have somebody to get me through the panic attacks on the plane. So come June, when we decided to come out here and look at houses, I got on a plane without any medication. I did not have a panic attack. And every flight that I have taken since then, I'm great. I don't need any medication. I get a little bit, like, I think it's just my memory reminding me, it's just kind of like residual, hey, wait, you used to be scared of flying, so I kind of get a little bit of that, but I get over it really fast. It's phenomenal to be able to be on a plane and be able to not knock myself out for 8 hours. And then when you take that much Xanax or Ativan or whatever, I was taking 2 milligrams of Xanax, but before that I used to take Ativan. But the problem with Ativan was I would lose like a day before and a day after when I took the large doses. So it wasn't worth it when I went on vacation for a week and I'd lose a couple of days. I don't have to do that anymore. We moved over here. When we moved over here, we brought 3 dogs and 2 cats. We put one of our dogs to sleep right before we moved because it was time. She was 16. And we had to have my dad and my stepmom fly out to Hawaii to help us get back because you have to have a seat for every animal that you bring. And it was crazy moving, getting all of our stuff ready to come over here, figuring out the vehicles, figuring out everything, getting the timing down right. And I just did it. And I retired in the middle of that too. So sent a kid to college, became an empty nester, retired from my job that I'd been at for almost 18 years and moved to Hawaii. And so the house that we loved and we had remodeled and that's where we raised our kids, and that's where all the love and laughter of raising my kids was. All of this happened. My stepmom one day when we were getting ready to leave, she was like, why are you not freaking out? Like, I would be so freaked out by now. Look at all this stuff that we're getting ready to do and what you're doing. And your whole life is changing. And I was just like, I don't know. We're just going to do it. That's the carnivore zen. It is real. Things just roll off. I used to get such bad anxiety, I would start thinking about something like money or, what's going on with the kids or anything. And I would get like, my stomach would feel like it was getting into a ball and I would get nauseous, like physically ill from this anxiety and this worry. And I would be able to go into a panic attack driving home thinking about getting in a car accident, my kids getting in a car accident. It was never me. It was always about my kids or, my husband, when he would be on call and he would leave in the middle of the night to go to the hospital for surgery, and I would be freaking out. I could put myself in a panic attack. I don't have any of that anymore. We still have some issues in our lives. That's okay. We'll deal with it. Trying to think of what else before I get to my husband's story. I think that pretty much puts us where we're at for me. So my husband, when we got married, was 145 pounds and he was healthy. His cholesterol was great. He ate like crap. He ate bacon and red meat all the time. I convinced him he was going to kill himself with that because I was a child of the 80s. I grew up in the no fat. We never had real butter. It was always margarine. And that's the way I grew up. And we ate fresh vegetables and fruit out of our yard. And we had white bread with dinner every night and meat and potatoes and a vegetable. And that was how I grew up. And our meat was elk or venison because that's what we ate. So I told my husband he couldn't eat all of that fatty stuff anymore. He did all the yo-yo dieting with me through the years. When I got the gastroparesis, he went through all the different diets with me. By the time we got to Carnivore, he was 212 pounds. His hemoglobin A1C was out in the world where it shouldn't have been. He had type 2 diabetes. He was taking metformin. He was depressed. I couldn't get him off the couch. I love you, honey. I love you, honey. But I couldn't get him off the couch. He would go to work and come home and no energy left. It was like the life force was zapped out of him. So we're both living this place, and I can't even imagine what it's like to have to watch your wife go through this disease. So all of it was crap. That puts us, unfortunately, in a place where we weren't getting along very well. We debated whether we were going to make it through all of this together as a couple. And I'm happy to say that, and his cholesterol was like crazy out of control. His triglycerides were like 300 or something. It was absolutely insane. I'm happy to say today he is 163 pounds. He is always up and going and doing something. I don't even know where he is right now. But we bought 10 acres in southern Arizona, and he is always out doing something now. His cholesterol, our total cholesterol and our LDL is high. But our triglycerides are beautiful, and our HDL is beautiful. In fact, I just went and saw my provider at the VA the other day, and she said that my HDL is one of the highest that she'd seen. So I can't complain. I can't complain where we're at. He feels great. You know, that he's not 100%. He's not going to tell you he feels like he's 40 again yet. He's almost 60. But we're hoping that he'll feel 40 again one of these days. But the whole point is that he feels great and he's doing good, and the depression is gone, and he does things, and he gets off the couch, and he is getting ready to go back to work. And excited about getting back into the OR. So we're good. There's no complaints. And Carnivore saved our marriage too. We get along much better. We found our relationship again. We're still working on it. Dr. Kiltz would tell you that you need intimacy. We're working on it. And that's kind of where we're at right now. I'm getting better. He's getting better. My mom and my stepdad are on day 4 of the keto flu right now. You guys can do it. Keep going. Don't give up. It's worth it. My mom is in hospice. She has been in and out of hospice for years. She has scleroderma, a scleroderma called CREST. It is not an easy disease. She was supposed to only live 5 years, and that was almost 20 years ago. No, it's not 20 years ago. What year are we? 24. She got sick in 10. So it's been 15 years-ish. So we decided that what does she have to lose? Try Carnivore. And if her pain levels get better, then that's freaking awesome. And who knows? Maybe she could reverse this awful disease that's been slowly killing her for all these years. I have hope. What do you have to lose? This brings me to where I'm at right now. I am currently in school to become a board certified nurse coach in holistic medicine, and I am doing a keto certification. And I am going to devote the rest of my life to helping people get through the first couple of months of keto/carnivore. That keto flu and that transition from using sugar and flour to using fat, and having your brain have to switch from getting those things to fat, it is a very difficult time. And I wouldn't tell anybody it's easy. So my goal is to get people through that. I also have a soft spot for veterans and for active duty. I have a son who is active duty Space Force, and I was Air Force. My husband was in the Army. My ex-husband I met in the Air Force. My brother-in-law just retired from the Air Force. So much military. We're just immersed in it. And Dr. Ede, her book, Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind. I mean, if you could hit the PTSD and the depression and the veterans, and you could help them find a quality of life again just by putting them on a high-fat keto or a carnivore diet, like, we need to get the VA to acknowledge that and to push that. And that would be my ultimate goal. I would love to work with the VA, and I would love to work with veterans. I would love for that to happen. I'm manifesting that out into the universe because that needs to happen. If I can get rid of this depression, anxiety, look at Carrie. Carrie, you're amazing. His depression, anxiety, crippling, couldn't get out of bed, depression, anxiety gone. There's just something to be said about it. So that would be my ultimate goal. I have a company that I set up. It's called Mana's Hope and Healing. Mana, M-A-N-A. That is the essence and the spirituality and the magic in the land of Hawaii. The Hawaiians call it the mana. It's what you feel from the earth. And also, I'll show you. This is my mana. No, that's my lily. This is my mana. Mana we adopted when he was 9 years old, and he was dying of heartworm, and we saved him. They thought he was going to die, and we saved him. And I had the best 5 years of my life with that dog. He was my soulmate. I may do a whole another video just on Mana. But he laid on me for his entire 5 years. Right after we got him was when I got sick. And he never left my side. He knew I was sick. He knew I got him through his illness, and then he was going to get me through mine. Never left my side. And unfortunately, we lost him to cancer last year. So my company's name is Mana's Hope and Healing. There is hope and healing. It is called the carnivore diet or the high-fat keto. So I help people on Instagram. If somebody reaches out to me, you can find me on Instagram, same place, at Eating Meat to Walk. And I will start my coaching business here shortly, and I am manifesting the great organizations that I'd like to work with out there. I won't put you on the spot by telling you, but everybody knows. Everybody knows where I want to end up and where I want to land. What I would give as my parting advice is, what is 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days in your life? The half-life of food is 3 months. Think about that. You can eat something and 3 months later it can still be affecting you. So really you need to give it 90 days. But if you, what is a month, 2 months, or 3 months? Start it. After you get over the keto flu, you have no idea what your body will do. And there's ways to get through the keto flu that make it manageable. And some people it doesn't even really bother them. And some people it's just a couple of days of like feeling tired. But there's ways around it and through it. And for those people who have chronic pain or going through all of that stuff, what do you have to lose? Eat meat for 30 days. It makes sense. So that's kind of my story. That's where I'm at. I am proud of where I'm at. I can acknowledge that life is messy and it's not always perfect, but I'm okay with that. And so my videos are always, I don't really care to edit unless something really big happens while I'm filming. I'm not going to edit. This is real life, and real life is messy, and I'm okay with that, especially being a carnivore. I guess that would be where we're at right now. You guys are welcome to hang out or to reach out to me. Please, below, like my video and subscribe. I need lots of subscribers. Out of the 18 subscribers that I have so far, I think half of those are my family members. I really want to get the word out. I want to show people that there's hope, and there is. I've done video interviews with Carrie, Dave Mack, and Demyelinating. And I've done video interviews with Carrie Mann, Dave Mack, and several others that are out there. They're all in my community on my YouTube. You can find them in there, all the links to all my different interviews. But pretty much what I just gave you were my interviews. Reach out to me if you have any questions. And I love my carnivore community. I want to end the video with thanking some people who have been very important to my carnivore journey so far. I want to start off with Bella. Thank you, Bella. Your group and everything that I got from your group and from you and from your videos. Thank you. Dr. Chafee and Dr. Berry, you are the reason that I am here today walking without a cane. You were the reason that you convinced me to go carnivore, and you've convinced me to stay on this path. So thank you so much. Very excited. I have an interview scheduled with Dr. Chafee next month. I can't wait to actually get to talk to him. You know, it's kind of like meeting your hero. And then all the other doctors that keep me going every day from day to day, Dr. Kiltson, Dr. Baker, and Dr. Mora, I watch your videos all the time, and you keep me going. And Coach Becca from Dr. Berry's group and Healing Humanity, thank you for being my mentor and helping me see where I needed to go with my life and helping me get there. And finally, I owe a lot to Carrie Mann. And without you, Carrie, I wouldn't be here, because I don't think that if your video wasn't the first one that I saw, and your enthusiasm and your love for carnivore, I don't know that I would have watched anymore. So thank you, Carrie, so much. And everybody else out there, all the influencers, everybody who is out there from day to day putting videos out, Dante Ferrigno and Dave Mack, and everybody who's doing interviews and putting the word out there, don't stop. There is a food revolution coming. I have no doubt. And, you know, if people would stop eating seed oils, stop eating refined sugar, and stop eating carbs, we'd be a much better place. They can still have some of their vegetables. I realized after eating a salad a day for the last 30 years that I actually don't like vegetables. It's all about the meat. Anyway, until next time, I think that's it. Cheers, guys.